I want to share with you guys a little bit today about finances. But what I want to present is that I believe that the reason why some of us have issues with our money is not because of the reasons that we think. And we think we have a money problem, but we actually have a heart problem. And here's how I want to explain that to you. I want to talk about bugs. Okay? Now, of all the things you thought I was going to say, bugs was probably not on that list. But there's this thing called, I think I'm saying this right, diatomaceous or diatomaceous earth. Creighton, did I get that right? Anybody? He says yes. Okay, somebody says yes. And this substance is really interesting. It's basically like this super, super fine powder. And if you have, ants around your house or spiders around your house and those things, this powder, you can actually, not that I'm recommending this, but you can actually eat it. Okay? It's non-toxic. But when you put it around bugs, what happens is the particles are so fine that they get inside the bug's exoskeleton, and it creates friction in their bodies, and it actually kills them. Okay? Now, what does that have to do with money? I believe everything. See, I think what is happening is that we have people that walk into churches all the time, and maybe you've been this person. See, I see our church really as a safe harbor for a lot of people who have gone through what I call post-traumatic church disorder. You've been beat up at 5 different churches in town. A lot of times people say, go to Lucas. Okay? Check out Nfluence. Go over there because they take care of people that have been hurt by religion. And that's not all we do, but it's a part of what we do. Because remember, the church is not a hospital. The church is a city on a hill that needs to have a spiritual hospital to help people recover. And that's really our passion here. And so this substance here, what happens is it gets into these insects' bodies and it creates friction. And I think that's what happens when people come to church and somebody mentions the word money from the stage, is there's people, we got this exoskeleton that just all of a sudden we're going, ah! And you just can't take it, and it just creates this friction in you. And although the substance, if you will, is non-toxic, the way in which it's experiencing, that we're experiencing in our bodies creates friction and ultimately creates pain and distrust. Okay? And see, I believe that the missing component for this is gratitude. It's gratitude. The missing component is gratitude. And here's what happens, unfortunately, is we have pastors, on Sunday mornings all around the world trying to talk people in to being gracious, to having gratitude, to being thankful. And you know what? I can't talk you into being thankful. No matter how hard I try, I cannot give you a revelation of thankfulness. Take a look at this verse, Psalms 116. It says this. It says, I love the Lord. How many of you can say that this morning? I love the Lord because he has heard and now hears my voice and my supplications, basically my requests. The fact that the God of the universe hears me, that's amazing. Because he has inclined his ear to me, and therefore I will call on him as long as I live. I mean, there's people that are just living for some celebrity to mention them in a tweet or retweet them or, give them a shout out on Instagram. And we have the God of creation who has inclined his ear to you. He's willing to retweet every single day of your life if that's what it takes to show you how much he cares about you. It goes on here. It says, the cords and sorrows of death were around me, and the terrors of Sheol, which is basically the place of the dead, has laid hold of me. I suffered anguish and grief, trouble and sorrow. Then called I upon the name of the Lord. O Lord, I beseech you, save my life and deliver me. See, this is the missing component between people that are experiencing breakthrough and people that aren't fully. And there's a lot of people on the edge of breakthrough, but there's this thing here that the writer of this psalm is talking about, and what he's specifically addressing. He's saying, basically, I know that I was completely redeemed by the Lord. And see, I think we have a lot of believers and a lot of people in this world that have some understanding of God, that are like, oh yeah, I'm thankful for God. I believe in God. I love God. But there's not a sense of, man, without God, I wouldn't be here. I had an opportunity this week to talk to a guy that I had developed a friendship with, divine friendship with. I mean, it was like the right time at the right place. And this guy was the guy who got me my publishing deal for Good God. It connected with me the agent that the Lord told me 5 years prior I was going to be connecting with. And I just had no idea how it was going to happen. I had a chance to get on the phone with this guy. As soon as I heard his voice, I was filled with gratitude. Why? Because I know how different my life looks now since having that moment. And everything that's come out of the book has been the podcast and the media stuff and all these sort of things, all from that one moment. And I'm here today because of this thing that God used this guy. So there's a gratitude there. But, that's a man. How much more so when we look at the God who orchestrates it all and who brings everything together for the good of those who love him. And man, the response to that is just, Lord, thank you. See, I know what my life was like before I understood his grace. I know what my life was like before I understood how much he saved me. And see, I think the problem for a lot of us is that we don't recognize what we've actually been saved from. And that's the blessing and the curse of Western civilization, is that sometimes we have it just good enough that we don't recognize how much we need him. And I'm not saying that we need it worse, like that we need our lives to get worse before we start loving God. I'm just saying we need to recognize that, it doesn't matter if I'm living in a palace or I'm living in a shack, if I'm well or if I'm sick. The fact of the matter is I have a lifespan that stops. And at that point, I'm in a position where I can't do anything to save myself, and I have to rely on him. And see, I believe what happens is we allow this little thing called money to prevent us from actually being able to trust. And let me just tell you this. Here at Nfluence, I only want to see people give out of gratitude. I only want to see people give out of gratitude. I don't want no dollar that is laced with obligation and guilt, and this guy next to me gave, so I guess I have to give. I'm not interested in those dollars. I don't need those in my life. I don't want those in my life. I believe that there is an army of people that are grateful for what God has done. They're grateful what's happened to their lives as a result of being in this ministry, and they want to see this gospel continue. I was downtown Elkhart last night with a buddy of mine, and I saw 2 or 3 different groups of Mormons that were out evangelizing, just walking the streets, riding bikes, talking to people. And I thought, where is the church? Where is the church? And see, I believe if we really saw what we have actually been saved from, our attitude would be like, sign me up. Where do I go? What do I do? I'm here. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to give. I'm ready to serve. I'm ready to tell somebody my story. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to gain influence in my life. We got Christians like, don't hand me the mic. I don't want to talk. See, you have a voice. You have a sphere of influence that God has placed you in. And there's nobody else that can do what he's called you to do but you. Amen?